Breaking news. Today, the Baltimore Ravens practiced, and we have some news to share with you. But before we go any further, make sure you hit the like button if you think Lamar Jackson will help us a lot this season. If possible, write it like this: Lamar Jackson is the best. Now, let's talk about something that's on everyone's mind right now. The return of some key players to the practice field this Thursday. You know how crucial it is to see these guys back in action, right? So after missing practice on Wednesday, we had three big names back. Offensive tackle Ronnie Stanley, wide receiver Rashad Bateman, and cornerback Marlon Humphrey. That's huge, especially with Humphrey. Let me break it down for you. Remember that overtime thriller we had in Week 5 against the Cincinnati Bengals? Yeah, well, after that, we all noticed Humphrey coming out with a cleat on his left foot. Fans started to get worried. Like, is this going to be another big injury blow for us? Especially after that game, the adrenaline was still pumping. But then, boom, you see one of your star corners in a boot. You can't help but think, here we go again. And if you tuned in to Coach Harbaugh's press conference on Monday, he was doing his best to calm everyone down. You could tell he didn't want to start a panic, right? He said they didn't really get hit with major injuries in that game. Of course, when you hear that, you're like, okay, good, no big issues. But seeing Marlon in that boot, it kind of makes you second-guess things. Harbaugh also touched on how tough the games are, especially when you factor in the turf and everything. He tried to stay positive, saying, I don't want to make promises, but I think we're in good shape. Honestly, that's Harbaugh being Harbaugh. He's always careful with his words. But deep down, we're all hoping that means Humphrey's fine and ready to go. Now, back to the good news. Thursday's practice. These guys being back is a great sign, but it's important to remember that we don't fully know how much they participated yet. We won't get the official word on that until the practice report drops later today. So yeah, we've got our fingers crossed. Even with some big names returning, it wasn't all clear skies. We still had a few key players missing from practice. Let me break it down for you. Offensive lineman Malaisala Aumavai Laulu, linebacker Malik Harrison, and defensive tackle Broderick Washington were all missing. Plus, cornerback Arthur Maulet is still on injured reserve designated to return, IR-DTR. These absences could potentially shake things up depending on their status moving forward, especially when you look at how important depth is in this league. We've got a lot of moving parts, and these injuries always keep things interesting, right? Every practice report feels like a mini draft of sorts. Who's in, who's out. We can't afford to lose any more guys, but with the way this team fights, I'm confident that we'll keep pushing through. So, what do you think, Ravens fans? Are you feeling good about these key players coming back? Or are you still worried about who's missing? Let's get that conversation going down in the comments. Because you know there's never a dull moment when it comes to our squad. We've got some big news to break down today, and I think you're going to want to stick around for this one. It's a story that blends the old and the new, and it could have a serious impact on how our defense shapes up this season. So let's dive into it. Our defense has been a little up and down so far this season, right? Well, it seems that first-year defensive coordinator Zach Orr has taken note, and he's making a move that could turn things around. According to a report by Jeff Zrabiek from The Athletic, which was confirmed by head coach John Harbaugh, the Ravens are bringing in a familiar face to help steady the ship. None other than Dean Pease. That name ring a bell? If it does, it should. Pease was our defensive coordinator from 2010 to 2017 and helped lead us to a Super Bowl win in 2013. Zach Orr, who many of you might remember as a standout linebacker for us before his early retirement, is reaching out to his former mentor. Pease, who had retired after a stint as the defensive coordinator for the Atlanta Falcons in 2022, is coming out of retirement to join the Ravens as a senior defensive consultant. This reunion isn't just a nostalgic trip down memory lane, it's a strategic move by Orr to bring in a veteran mind with a deep understanding of Ravens culture and defensive philosophy. Orr said something pretty powerful in his interview with Zrabiech. He's a guy who knows me as a person, knows the system, knows the culture here. He's a Raven. Those are words that should resonate with all of us because there's something about that Raven identity, right? It's gritty, it's tough, it's about family, and Pease is definitely part of that family.
At 75 years old, Pease couldn't stay away from the game for long. After leaving the Falcons, he thought he was done with football. But clearly, the Ravens called, And he answered, "This isn't the first time Pease has come out of retirement either. He stepped away after coaching the Tennessee Titans, but was quickly lured back. It seems like the game has a way of pulling him back in, especially when it comes to coaching defenses with championship potential." Now, here's where things get interesting. Orr himself was coached by Pease during his time as a Ravens linebacker, and Pease played a big role in helping Orr become an all-pro defender before a neck injury cut his playing career short. Orr said he's kept in close contact with Pease over the years and decided to make the offer. I said, "Hey, it would be great if you wanted to come here and be a consultant, be another set of eyes. Just help us out. Let's be real, guys. We could use the help right now. As much as we've shown flashes of brilliance, especially against the run, where we're ranked first, allowing just 60.4 rushing yards per game, our pass defense has been a weak spot. We're ranked 31st in the league, giving up over 280 passing yards per game, and we just got torched by Joe Burrow and the Bengals for 392 passing yards and 5 touchdowns. That game hurt, no doubt. So, if Pease can bring in his experience and help us tighten up that secondary, that's a win in my book." Harbaugh, for his part, seemed pretty excited about Pease's return. After Wednesday's practice, he shared his thoughts. "I'm really fired up about it. Zach and I talked about it, and Zach's been in touch with Dean all along. It's a great sounding board, a mentor for Zach, and I know they're very close. Dean and I go way back, as you guys know, and his football knowledge and his ability to just be an extra set of eyes and a sounding board for everyone is super valuable. It's clear that this isn't just about bolstering our defense. It's about creating a strong support system for Orr, one of the youngest coordinators in the league, as he continues to learn and grow in this role. Having someone like Pease around can only help. And honestly, how often do you get to add a Super Bowl-winning defensive mind mid-season? So, Ravens flock, what do you think? Do you believe Dean Pease's return can help get our defense back on track, especially when it comes to stopping the pass? Or is this move too little, too late? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more Ravens updates. Let's keep the conversation going. In 2016, Titans head coach Mike Mularkey introduced something bold, the exotic smash-mouth offense. People laughed at the name, but Mularkey wasn't joking. His vision was to unleash a punishing ground attack that would leave defenses guessing. And at the heart of this offense was a young, powerful running back named Derrick Henry. Fast forward nearly a decade, and Mularkey's blueprint is alive and thriving. This Sunday, the Baltimore Ravens and Washington Commanders are set to clash in a game that brings back that hard-hitting, ground-and-pound style. Both teams dominate the NFL in rushing. Baltimore leads with an astonishing 211.2 rushing yards per game, while Washington isn't far behind at 178.4. It's a throwback to a bygone era, where running the ball ruled the field. In fact, this matchup marks the first time since 1978 that two teams, each averaging over 175 rushing yards per game, will face off in Week 6 or later. Derrick Henry, now with the Ravens, continues to carry the torch, leading the league in rushing yards, touchdowns, and explosive plays. Meanwhile, Washington has a surprise weapon in rookie quarterback Jaden Daniels, who's taking the league by storm with his legs, mirroring the electrifying play of Baltimore's Lamar Jackson. Expect a battle of brute force and sheer will on Sunday, as these two teams embrace the physicality of football's roots.